Hello, my name is Sam Hammond. My group did our Western Hemisphere slide rocket project on Monte Alban. If you would like to learn more about Monte Alban, here is a video.
Okay, I did Monte Alban. I'm Sam Hammond.
Aaron Danes.
That's Amanda. We have a video to start it off. Monte, should I say it first or you push the video? Let's do the video first.
When we arrived at the site, Monte Alban site, it was very early in the morning and it was quite a cold morning. The site wasn't open, we were some of the first visitors, and we were just watching the cleaners sweeping as they were preparing the site. We bumped into Augustine, who was a guide who was working at the site, and he was pretty keen to get some paying visitors on one of his guided tours, and he started to talk to us about the Zapotecan people. He was showing us on the plan which area of the site was used for what, and he seemed very knowledgeable, so we decided we'd pay him to give us a guided tour. So we were walking up towards the main site. There were lots of these really beautiful trees, and he was explaining these were medicinal plants. At the beginning of the site there was this space which was like a dugout area which had a plaque that described it as the Juego de Pelota. Well, it became apparent as Augustine explained that it was an area which was used for a ball game.
What?
We came to the area where there were these stone engravings, and the official history was that these were people who were born with disfigurements. One of them was a carving of somebody with a hair lip, for example. But Augustine disputed this and said that he thought that they were depicting people from all sorts of different cultures. One was an African person, and one was a Chinese, and one was a Egyptian, and one was a Jewish person. And he was saying that it was absolute rubbish, that people hadn't visited Mexico before the Spanish arrived. And he actually went on to explain that the food that you find in India, the chapati bread, and the way that the chapati is eaten is very similar to a tortilla or a quesadilla, and that was his proof as to how he knew that there'd been this movement across the continents, because there were such similarities between the food they ate. He took us into the main area of the site, and he explained that this is where the people would gather, thousands of Zapotec people, to hear their leaders speak. And he was describing how incredible
Monte Alban is found in Oaxaca, Mexico. There. It's 36,820 square feet in area where it is. It's a very mountainous terrain, and through the Oaxaca, Mexico, it contains a continental divide which goes through Monte Alban, and the terrain is isolated from all other communities around it, and about 9% of it is arid land. The climate is moderate, and average temperature about 64 degrees Fahrenheit. There are three main climate regions. There's hot, and then there's semi-humid, and then there's semi-hot and humid. Next slide. This is the Monte Alba is constructed on a site 1,320 feet, which is here. And then it's a ceremonial center surrounded by a stone hall. There's over 170 tombs. There's numerous ceremonial altars and pyramids and places where ceremonies take place. Pictures of it. The site is approximately 8 acres of land, and it's at the side of the hill where and on the side of the hill there's terrace for housing. There's a terrace where people live. Next slide.
Monte Alban was built by a group called the Zapotec's. It's a series of ceremonial buildings. They had to level an entire hilltop in order to build it. It was built with large stone blocks. And all the foods, the building materials, and life necessities came from the valley below.
This is the valley below.
Picture of the valley below, yeah. The Zapotec's were ruled under Almanacs until 500 BC. They existed between about 500 BC and 1000 AD. History centers around Monte Alban. They had this was at the history centers. They had a written language. They lived in cities, and they obsessed with calendars, mathematics, and deaf cults. Sedentary group in which a majority of the population was farmers. They also conquered a large amount of land, but constantly battling to protect land and trade routes from Aztecs and other groups. With their religion, the gods associated with various natural elements. The Zapotec worldview includes supernaturals such as witches, male and female devils, images of Christ, and animal guardians. At birth, each person was assigned an animal. Ritual leaders, hechiceros, they conducted certain ceremonies. Ceremonies typically centered around farming, baptisms, communion, marriage, and death. The arts included weaving and pottery. Rugs are still common. Both genders were schooners in the medical field. Men dealt with bones, and only women were midwives. Illnesses could be associated with improper religious conduct, soul loss, envy, anger, the evil eye, fright, written craft. They distinguish between ordinary death and sudden violent death, and married and unmarried believed in afterlife.
So in some villages, the older women still wear the traditional supposed clothing. However, in more conservative communities, the women and the girls both wear the traditional costume. The outfit consists of 2 blouses, a wrap skirt, and an underskirt. And they typically wore their hair up in braids tied on top of their head with ribbons. So the Monte Alba is divided up into 5 phases. During the first phase was the leveling of the mountain, and it only had a population of about 10,000. During period 2 was like the full-scale flattening of the surrounding ridge tops, and the terracing of the surrounding slopes for housing began. During period 3 was the peak of the development, and what was built in period 3 is what you see now at the site. It reached a population of about 25,000 in its heyday, and this is when they started to build pyramids, temples, palaces, patios, and tombs. During period 4, the site slowly became abandoned, and archaeologists have been working on the explanation why for a really long time, but they haven't found any really significant reason yet. And during period 5 was when the Mixtecs took over, which is another different group, and they like reused the tombs until the Spanish arrived in about 1521 AD. So major structures include the ball court, which is located left of the entrance. The defining characteristics It had like defining characteristics of all ball court, where it had a rectangular base with 2 sloping sides, and typically the loser of this game was killed or sacrificed. The Los Danzantes is called the building of the dancers because it contained all of the different like deformed figures, as they said in the video. It is the earliest surviving structure of and it has a lot of Olmec characteristics to it. Building J resembles an arrow, and archaeologists believe that it was used as an observatory. The palace was like the grand structure, and it was one of the largest. And then tomb number 7 was filled with fabulous riches, for which it is famous, and is one of the few tombs found at the site. The importance of the Monte Alban. It has a large historical importance regarding the Zapotec culture and other events surrounding Monte Alban. The structures all have a significance to archaeologists and the history of the region. And the sacred city still remains a popular tourist destination and continues to be researched by archaeologists. And it can be like, you can visit the city for like $15 as like, you can just like take a bus there for like $5 and then get a tour there for like $5 and come back. So it's like a $15 trip to go to this place.
We have a quiz. Are we gonna go
Sure.
quiz right now?
What am I supposed
Get your papers and pen out.
What am I supposed to do?
Oh, no, let's just see if they know it. They don't need to write it down. Let's see if we
Yeah.
can.
Where
Group-wise.
Yeah, we don't have that. It's too easy. Number 1, where is Monte Alban located? Eli? B. B? That's correct.
Yes.
2, who are the natives?
I can't raise my hand, Mr. Smith.
That is correct. 3, there were blank phases of Monte Alban. That is incorrect.
5.
It is 5. Yes. What was the Hugo de Peludota?
Ball game.
That is correct. Famous? Anyone besides that? Also nice treasures and things. The Zapotecs were first ruled under the blank until 500 BC. Eli.
The Olmecs.
Yes.
Oh, snap. You paid attention.
The losers of the ball game. Wait. Losers of the ball game played on the ball court were killed or sacrificed. Yes.
Nice.
What was the earliest surviving structure at Monte Alban?
Ooh.
Second one.
A. Los Angeles.
Yes, that's correct. And here are the answers. Make sure that they're correct.
Da-da-da.
They are correct. All your answers were correct. Besides,
Elfine.
and that was our side rocket.